Nero. I rented a Peter in Chicago. We hung out for a while. He's a wonderful piano player and a great writer. When I see this Sunday in New York, the film, I always love this. He can write the pants out of a song. He starts off from a D minor 7 to a G7. Now the tune really ends up in B flat ultimately, but it goes into G each time the 8s go around. So he starts out like D minor 7 to a G7. New York on Sunday, big city taking a nap. Then it goes to C minor 7, does the same thing to F7. New York on Sunday, life's A minor 7, to a D7, with an augmented ninth. Then it's in G. Then it goes back to that. If you've got troubles, just take them out for a walk. They'll burst like bubbles in the fun of a Sunday in New York. Now it goes into C minor. You can spend time without spending a dime, watching people watch people pass. C minor again. Later you'll pause, and in one of those stores, there's that face next to yours in the glass. A minor 7 to D7, then you're back to the D minor 7 again. C minor, F9, A minor, D7, and G. Then the song ends. Someday in new B flat. Sunday in New York. Sunday in New York. Peter Nero sure could write. Great piano player too. Was a wonderful man. I had a lot of fun with Peter. And in our Chicago days. I had just come out of recording in CBS Studios on the Shore Drive, and it was slick. It was starting to snow, and it was one of those just early snows where it was just a little snow on the street, and the hill comes down a little bit there to get to the Shore Drive. And as I was pulled out of the parking lot underneath the studio, I started down that hill, and as I got down the hill a little ways, I was driving a Triumph, and I put on the brakes, and it just kept sliding and just kept sliding right very slowly, right down to the intersection. I couldn't do anything, and there was a car, boom, we hit. and it took my left front fender and just peeled it back over the wheel and the tire. So I couldn't move the car because of that. Would have had to have the whole fender jerked off or something to do, whatever. So I went in the Shore Hotel there on the corner Shore Drive, and as I was standing in there and got on the telephone, I noticed a fellow standing at the desk, kind of observing me or whatever, and he was hearing me talk about calling about seeing if I could get another car and seeing if Nancy, Kim Cusac's wife, would come and pick me up, because I had another job off on the northwest side of Chicago that night. I was playing with Frank Chase, the clarinet player, and he was playing bass saxophone on this job as a bass, and Manny Fish Williams on the piano, and Brian Shanley was the clarinet player. It was his band. It was 4 of us, and I had to get up there to that job. And so Nancy did eventually come in and pick me up. She had to drive in from the west side of Chicago. So during that time I walked out and I stepped up to the nice gentleman that was there, and I started talking with him, and a little while he says, "Yeah, I'm a musician myself." And I said, "Yeah, what's your name?" He said, "My name is Peter Nero." And Peter happened to be the #1 jazz classical pianist at the time. And so we stood there and we talked over jobs and over various things and one thing and another. And then at other times, like for example, later, I got talking with Merrill Evans, the great, over here at NOLA Studio, which is gone now, recording studio. Merrill used to come in and sit and talk all the time. He was a great arranger. He did most all the arrangements back in the 50s and 60s for the Tonight Show. And so he was telling me a lot of stories about that different kind of stuff like that. And so we were talking about Peter one day, Peter Nero, and he said, "You know, I had a job, I did this thing, this guy had a lot of money. And we were doing this thing," and he said, he told me, he said, "I want a piano player like Peter Nero. I want a piano player that plays like Peter Nero." Because I guess was doing a little singing on the thing, but he had a lot of money. So anyway, he brought this wonderful piano player, and he was playing in, and the piano player was playing, and the guy came over and said, "Now, I thought I told you I want a piano player like Peter Nero." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Let's call this and get me a piano player like Peter Nero." So Merle turned around and said, "Well, I wonder if Peter's in town." So Merle called Peter Nero, and Peter said, "Yeah, sure, I'll make the date." So the next day, Peter arrived, was sitting at the piano playing, and they started again into the arrangement and the song. Playing away, and the guy comes over again and says, "Now look, I told you I wanted a piano player like Peter Nero. Why do you keep doing this?" And he said, "Let me introduce you to the piano player. Peter Nero, this is an asshole." So anyway, there are wonderful stories that go on and on and on. I can go on and on. I love stories. I can go on and on forever. Merle was a great guy. He knew everybody and arranged for everybody under the sun, Eddy Gourmet and what you call her husband, Lawrence, and all that different stuff, whatever. Anyway, he was for everybody.